The Kryn High Command did not accept resignations from generals, especially not from decorated war heroes, especially not during an active campaign. Velthar submitted his letter anyway. Within hours, he was summoned to headquarters. They made him wait in a small room for 3 hours. It was a power play. Make him uncomfortable. Make him reconsider. It did not work. The tribunal consisted of 5 generals, each older than Velthar. They sat behind a high desk and looked down at him like judges. In a way, they were. General Velthar, you have served with distinction for 40 cycles, the head general began. Your record is exemplary, which makes your recent behavior inexplicable. Explain yourself. Velthar stood at attention. I can no longer follow orders that require unnecessary death. Unnecessary? We are at war. All death in war is necessary. I disagree, sir. The room went silent. Officers did not disagree with the high command. Not like this, another general leaned forward. You delayed an orbital bombardment. You disobeyed direct orders. You communicated your disobedience to the entire fleet. And now you want to resign. Tell us the truth, General. Have the humans compromised you? Velthar had expected this question. No, sir. They have awakened me. Awakened you to what? To the reality that strength without purpose is just violence. That victory at any cost is not victory at all. That some orders should not be followed because they require us to abandon what makes us civilized. The generals exchanged looks. One of them pulled up files on his screen. We have reports that you have spent considerable time with human forces, that you attended their ceremonies, that you take advice from human civilians. This is highly irregular. I studied them, sir. I tried to understand why they fight the way they fight, why they win when they should lose, and what did you learn? That they fight for something beyond conquest. They fight to protect, to preserve, to save. Every life matters to them. They do not calculate acceptable losses because no loss is acceptable to them. The head general's voice was cold. That is a beautiful philosophy, General. It is also impractical. War requires hard choices. Sacrifice is necessary for victory. You know this. You have made these choices yourself for 40 cycles. Yes, sir. I have, and I was wrong. Another general stood up, his voice rising. You were wrong. You won battles. You saved the Empire. Your tactics are taught in military academies. And now you say it was all wrong? Velthar met his eyes. I won battles, sir. But at what cost? How many civilians did we consider acceptable losses? How many native populations did we displace for resources? How many times did we choose convenience over compassion? I never questioned these choices before. Now I cannot stop questioning them. The tribunal deliberated for 2 hours. Velthar waited outside. He felt calm. He had made his choice. When they called him back, the verdict was clear in their faces. General Velthar, this tribunal finds you guilty of insubordination, refusal to follow lawful orders, and conduct unbecoming an officer. However, in recognition of your 40 cycles of service, we will not imprison you. You are dishonorably discharged from the Kryn military. You are exiled from all Kryn territories. You have 48 hours to leave. Velthar saluted one last time. Thank you, sir. One more thing, the head general said. Where will you go? Velthar had already decided. Earth, the human Terra Corps came to say goodbye. Commander Junwoo brought his entire unit. They stood in the docking bay as Velthar prepared to board a civilian transport. We heard what happened, Junwoo said. We are sorry, do not be. I made my choice. A young human named Captain Yuna stepped forward. She had fought at Forward Base Delta. General, you learned something important. You learned that protecting is stronger than destroying. That took courage. It took too long, Velthar said. I should have learned this 40 cycles ago. Better late than never, Junwoo said with a smile. That is what we say on Earth. You are always learning. That is what makes someone wise. They shook hands in the human way. Velthar found the gesture meaningful. A connection between equals, not superior and subordinate. Just beings who understood each other. The journey to Earth took 6 weeks. Velthar traveled on a commercial transport. The other passengers avoided him once they learned who he was. Word had spread quickly. The general who broke. The officer who betrayed his own people for human philosophy. Velthar did not mind the isolation. It gave him time to think. On the 4th week, a human woman sat down across from him in the dining area. She was older with gray hair and intelligent eyes. You are General Velthar, she said. It was not a question. I am not a general anymore. Still, that is who you are. I am Dr. Bora. I am a xenobiologist returning from a research station. They talked for hours. Bora was not impressed by his military record. In fact, she seemed to find it troubling. You spent 40 years fighting wars, she said. What did you build in that time? I protected the Empire by destroying others. That is not building. That is just controlled destruction. Her words were harsh but not unkind. She spoke like a teacher correcting a student. On Earth, we value creation over destruction. Bora continued. We remember builders more than warriors. Scientists who cure diseases. Teachers who inspire students. Artists who make beauty. These are our heroes. Warriors are necessary sometimes, but they are not what we celebrate most. I do not know how to build, Velthar admitted. I only know how to fight. Then you will learn, Bora said simply. That is why you are going to Earth, yes? To learn a different way. Velthar had not thought of it exactly like that. But she was right. Earth appeared in the viewport on the 41st day. Velthar stared at the blue and green world. It looked peaceful, beautiful. Nothing like the military installations he had lived on for 40 cycles. Landing was chaotic. Earth media had learned about his arrival. Cameras were everywhere. Reporters shouted questions. The Earth government seemed unsure what to do with him. He was the first alien general to voluntarily immigrate to Earth. There was no protocol for this. They put him in temporary housing in a city called Seoul. The building was small and crowded. Everything was small compared to military ships. But it was clean and functional. The first night, Velthar could not sleep. The sounds of the city kept him awake. Vehicles moving, people talking, music playing somewhere. On military ships, everything was quiet at night, controlled, orderly. This was chaos, but it was alive. The next morning, his neighbor knocked on his door. She was an elderly human woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. I am Ji-Wan, she said in simple galactic standard. Welcome to our building. I brought you food. You must be hungry. She handed him a covered dish. Inside was something that smelled amazing. Rice, vegetables, and meat in a sauce he did not recognize. Thank you, Velthar said. He did not know what else to say. Eat, Ji-Wan said. Then come to my apartment. I will teach you about the neighborhood. You need to know where to buy food, how to use the transit system, important things. She left before he could protest. Velthar ate the food. It was delicious. Better than military rations. He had forgotten that food could taste like something other than nutrients. Ji-Wan spent the afternoon teaching him how to navigate the city. She showed him the market, the transit stations, the community center. She introduced him to other neighbors. Most stared at him. Some seemed afraid. But Ji-Wan treated him like anyone else. You are new here, she said. Everyone needs help when they are new. I came to Seoul 60 years ago from a small village. I did not know anything about cities. But people helped me. Now I help you. That is how community works. The Earth government assigned him a liaison. Officer Kyung-soo worked for the Department of Extraterrestrial Integration. He was young and efficient. You will need to attend cultural orientation classes, Kyung-soo explained. Earth laws, customs, social expectations. You will need to learn Korean or English. You will need to find employment eventually. Do you have any skills besides military command? Velthar thought about it. No. Then we will figure something out. Most aliens who come to Earth struggle at first. But you will adapt. Humans are good at helping people adapt. The orientation classes were difficult. There were so many rules, so many unspoken expectations. On military ships, everything was clear. Hierarchy, chain of command. Orders and obedience. On Earth, nothing was clear. People made their own choices. They questioned authority. They valued individual freedom over collective efficiency. It was confusing and overwhelming. 1 month into his new life, Velthar witnessed a car accident. 2 vehicles collided at an intersection. It was not serious, but both drivers were shaken. Within seconds, people rushed to help. They came from shops, from other cars, from the sidewalk. They asked if everyone was okay. They called emergency services. They directed traffic around the accident. No one ordered them to help. No one commanded them. They just did it. Velthar stood watching. This was what he had seen in war. Humans helping without being told, acting without orders, caring without calculation, but this was not war. This was just an ordinary day, which meant this behavior was not something humans saved for battle. This was just who they were. Kyung-soo found him later that day. "How are you adjusting?" "I do not know," Velthar admitted. "I do not know who I am without rank, without purpose. In the military, I was General Velthar." General Velthar stood in the observation deck of his command ship, watching the battle unfold on the screens before him. He had been a soldier for 40 cycles, leading armies across dozens of worlds. War was all he knew. War was what he was good at. The Galactic Council had hired human mercenaries for this campaign. Velthar did not like it. Humans were young, barely 200 years into space travel. They were small creatures, weak compared to most species in the galaxy. Their technology was acceptable, but nothing special. He wondered why the Council had bothered with them at all. The first human unit arrived 3 days ago. Their commander was a man named Jun-woo, shorter than Velthar by half a meter. The human wore a simple uniform and carried himself with quiet confidence. During their meeting, Jun-woo had saluted in the human way and said his unit was ready for orders. Velthar had assigned them to support duties. Guard the supply lines. Nothing important. He did not expect much from them. Now everything was different. The enemy had launched a surprise attack on Forward Base Delta. The base was not strategically important, but 300 soldiers were stationed there. 200 were Kryn like Velthar, 50 were from other allied species, and 50 were humans. The attack came fast and brutal. Enemy ships blocked the skies. Ground forces surrounded the base. Velthar immediately ordered evacuation ships, but the enemy shot them down before they could land. The base was trapped. Standard military protocol was clear. The base could not be saved. The soldiers there would have to fight until death while the main army regrouped. It was unfortunate but necessary. Velthar had made this calculation many times before. He ordered the base commander to hold position as long as possible. He expected maybe 12 hours of resistance. Then the base would fall and the campaign would continue. The humans responded differently. Commander Jun-woo contacted Velthar directly. His face appeared on the screen covered in dirt and blood. Behind him, explosions lit up the darkness. "General, my unit is requesting permission to stay with the Kryn soldiers," Jun-woo said calmly. Velthar's translator must have malfunctioned. "You are already there. You cannot leave. I mean after evacuation, sir. We know you will try again. When you do, we request permission to remain on the ground until everyone is evacuated." Velthar stared at the human. "There will be no evacuation. The base is lost. You will fight until you cannot fight anymore. This is how war works." Jun-woo was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. "With respect, General, that is not how humans work. We will hold this base until everyone gets out or until we are all dead. Whichever comes first." The transmission ended before Velthar could respond. He did not understand. The base was lost. Why would the humans waste their lives? It made no tactical sense, but the humans did not care about tactical sense. For 72 hours, Velthar watched something he had never seen before. The humans fought like demons. They set up defensive positions with whatever they could find. They rationed their ammunition carefully. When the enemy broke through one wall, the humans filled the gap with their own bodies. A medic named Hyun-soo refused to evacuate when a rescue shuttle finally managed to land on the 3rd day. Velthar watched through the shuttle's cameras as Kryn soldiers climbed aboard. Hyun-soo was carrying a wounded Kryn warrior twice his size. "Get on the shuttle," the pilot ordered. "There are still wounded," Hyun-soo said. He set down the Kryn soldier and ran back into the base. The pilot looked confused. "Should I wait?" Velthar heard himself say yes. Hyun-soo made 4 more trips. Each time he carried out wounded soldiers. Some were Kryn, some were other species. On his last trip, enemy fire hit the wall beside him. The explosion knocked him down, but he got back up. He dragged 2 more soldiers to the shuttle, then collapsed inside. The humans sang during the battle. Velthar heard it through the communication channels. Songs in their various languages. Songs that sounded sad and beautiful at the same time. The Kryn soldiers who survived later said the singing made them feel less afraid. On the 4th day, Velthar's main army broke through the enemy lines. They reached Forward Base Delta. Of the 300 soldiers trapped there, 243 survived. The casualty rate was much lower than expected. 30 human soldiers died. 20 survived. They had taken the most dangerous positions. the weakest points in the defense. They had put themselves between the enemy and everyone else. Veltar attended the human memorial service. He did not have to, but something made him go. The humans gathered in their ship's cargo bay. They had covered boxes with their flags. The boxes contained the bodies of their dead. One by one, soldiers stepped forward and spoke about their fallen friends. They told stories. They cried. They laughed at memories. Commander Junwoo read out each name slowly, with respect. "We do this so they are not forgotten," Junwoo explained when he saw Velthar watching. "Every life matters. Every person matters." Velthar had attended thousands of military funerals. Usually they were quick, efficient. Names were read, service was acknowledged, and everyone moved on. War had no time for grief, but the humans took 3 hours. They honored each person who died. They treated death like it meant something. After the service, Velthar found medic Hyun-soo in the medical bay. The human was treating wounded soldiers. His own injuries were bandaged, but he had not rested. "Why did you stay behind?" Velthar asked. Hyun-soo looked up from his work. He seemed surprised by the question. "There were wounded soldiers, sir. They needed help." "But you could have died." "Yes, sir." "That is not logical." Hyun-soo smiled. "War is not logical, General. But some things are simple. We don't leave people behind. Any people. It does not matter what species they are or whether we know them. If someone needs help, we help. That is what makes us human." Velthar returned to his quarters that night. He could not stop thinking about what he had seen. For 40 cycles he had fought wars. He had won great victories. He had destroyed enemies and conquered worlds. He had always believed that strength meant the ability to destroy, that victory meant crushing your opponents. But the humans were weak by galactic standards. They were small and fragile, yet they had saved 200 lives at Forward Base Delta. They had held impossible positions. They had fought with something Velthar did not understand. He pulled up the battle recordings and watched them again. He watched humans carry wounded soldiers under fire. He watched them share their last food rations with aliens they had just met. He watched them refuse evacuation until everyone else was safe. His second-in-command, Zenkor, entered without knocking. "General, I heard you attended the human ceremony." "I did." "That is unusual, sir." Velthar turned off the screens. "The humans are unusual." Zenkor moved closer. His voice dropped to a warning. "Sir, I must advise caution. Do not get too close to the humans. They are dangerous. They saved our soldiers." "That is not what I mean, sir." Zenkor looked uncomfortable. "They change people. They make you think differently." Question orders. Question purpose. Several alien soldiers who fought alongside humans have requested transfers. Some have even left military service. The humans are infectious. After Zenkor left, Velthar sat in the darkness of his quarters. He thought about Hyun-soo's words. "We don't leave people behind. Any people." In 40 cycles of war, Velthar had left many people behind. It was necessary. It was practical. It was how war worked. But maybe the humans fought wars differently because they understood something he did not. He opened a new file on his computer. He began to record his observations. He did not know why, but something told him he needed to understand these strange, weak, powerful creatures. Something told him they were going to change everything. The Summer Festival Planning Committee met every Tuesday evening at the community center. Velthar attended his first meeting with Jiwon. He felt out of place among the dozen humans sitting in a circle, drinking tea and discussing decorations. "This is Velthar," Jiwon announced. "He is my neighbor. He is very good at organizing." He was a general. Everyone stared at him. An older man named Dongwoo broke the silence. "A general? Well, we could use someone who knows about logistics. Last year's festival was a mess. Nobody knew where anything was. That was how Velthar found his first purpose on Earth, planning a neighborhood summer festival. It was nothing like commanding a military campaign. But the skills were similar: resource allocation, timeline management, coordinating multiple teams. He created schedules and diagrams. He organized volunteer shifts. The committee was impressed. "You make it look easy," one woman said. "Organization is always easy," Velthar replied. "What is hard is remembering that you are organizing for people, not just efficiency." Jiwon smiled at him. "You are learning." The festival was a success. Children ran through the streets. Vendors sold food. Musicians played traditional Korean music. Velthar worked the entire day making sure everything ran smoothly. At the end of the night, a small girl approached him. She was maybe 6 years old with her hair in 2 ponytails. She looked up at him without fear. "Are you an alien?" she asked. "Yes." "Are you a good alien or a bad alien?" Velthar knelt down to her level. It was a good question. An important question. "I am trying to become good," he said honestly. The girl thought about this. "Okay, I am Hanul. Do you want to play tag?" She ran off before he could answer. But something in his chest felt warm. A human child had accepted him, had invited him to play. It was a small thing, but it felt significant. Hanul became a frequent visitor to his apartment. She lived in the same building with her parents. She would knock on his door and ask strange questions. "Do aliens dream?" "Yes." "What do you dream about?" "I dream about war, about the people I could not save." "That sounds sad." "It is." "You should dream about better things." "I dream about flying. And pandas." "Do you have pandas in space?" "No. That is too bad." "Pandas are great." Her innocence was refreshing. She did not care about his past. She just saw him as her friend. Money became a problem. The small pension Earth provided was not enough. Velthar needed work. But what could a former general do in a peaceful society? G1 suggested teaching. You know military history. You know strategy. Universities would be interested. Velthar contacted Seoul National University. A professor named Minho responded. They met at a cafe near campus. Minho was middle-aged with glasses and a calm manner. "Your experiences are unique," Minho said. "We have never had a non-human perspective on warfare. Would you be willing to teach a course?" "I do not know how to teach. You will learn. Everyone starts somewhere." Velthar's first lecture was a disaster. He stood before 30 students and talked about casualty rates and tactical formations. He presented war as numbers and statistics, cold, clinical, efficient. A student named Inho raised his hand. "Professor, you talk about 10,000 deaths like it is just a number. But those were people. They had families, dreams, futures. What about them?" Velthar stopped mid-sentence. The question hit him hard. I never thought about it that way." "Maybe you should," Inho said quietly. That night, Velthar rewrote his entire course. He began studying human military history differently. He read about the Korean War, the World Wars, peacekeeping missions. But he focused on the people. The soldiers who wrote letters home. The civilians who survived. The families who lost members. War was not about statistics. It was about human cost. His next lecture was different. He talked about the humans he had fought alongside. About Hyunsu, the medic who refused to leave wounded soldiers. About Daejung, who died saving civilians. About Junwoo, who refused to help kill innocents. The students listened. Some took notes. Some just stared. "I spent 40 cycles believing war was about victory," Velthar said. "The humans taught me that war is about protecting what you love. That is why they fight differently. That is why they are so effective. They remember that every casualty is a person." After class, Inho approached him. "That was better, Professor." "Thank you." The course became popular. Students from other departments started attending. Velthar found himself enjoying teaching. It was creation, not destruction. He was building knowledge instead of destroying enemies. He met Dr. Yoonji at a faculty meeting. She taught psychology and studied trauma. She was quiet and thoughtful with kind eyes. "Your course is interesting," she said. "You talk about war from a perspective of regret. That is unusual. I have much to regret. That shows growth. Many soldiers never examine their actions. They accept what they did as necessary." They began meeting for coffee. Yoonji helped him understand human concepts he had never experienced. Empathy, compassion, love. "You asked me what love is," she said one day. "Love is when you care about someone's happiness more than your own. When their pain hurts you. When their joy makes you happy. It is choosing to be vulnerable for another person." "I have never loved anything," Velthar admitted. "I served, I obeyed. I conquered. But I never loved." "That is very sad," Yoonji said. "But you can learn. Love is not something you are born knowing. It is something you practice." Velthar became involved in the neighborhood. He helped elderly residents with their groceries. He organized a tutoring program for children. He used his logistics skills to improve the local food bank's distribution system. People began to recognize him. That is the alien general who became normal, they would say. Not with fear, with acceptance. 1 year after arriving on Earth, the news broke. The war Velthar had left was escalating. His replacement had authorized the invasion he had refused. Native populations were being displaced. Millions were suffering. Former soldiers from his command sent him messages. "General, you were right, come back. Help us fix this." The Terra Corps veterans contacted him too. "We will return if you lead us. We can make a difference." Velthar sat in his apartment reading the messages. Part of him wanted to go back. He was a general. War was what he knew. Maybe he could change things from inside the system. But another part of him thought about Hanul asking him to play, about his students learning to see war differently, about the community center where he helped plan events, about Yunji teaching him about love. Professor Minho found him in his office. "You are troubled. They want me to return to war, to fight the wrongs I see happening. Do you want to go back?" "Part of me does. I am good at war. Maybe I could save lives." Minho sat down. "You left war to find something better. Have you found it?" Velthar thought about the question. "I do not know. I teach now. I help my neighbors. I have friends. But is that enough? When people are dying and I could help?" "Fighting is not the only way to change things," Minho said. "You have a platform now. People listen to you. Your students will become leaders. Your perspective reaches thousands. Maybe your impact is greater here than it would be in war." Jiwan was more direct. "If you go back, you become a general again. You forget what you learned here. Earth changed you. Do not let war change you back." Hanul was simplest. She came to his apartment with her homework. "Are you leaving?" she asked. "Maybe. But who will help me with my math? And who will come to my birthday party? I already invited you." "There are more important things than birthday parties, Hanul." She looked at him seriously. "No, there are not. Birthday parties are when your friends celebrate that you are alive. What is more important than that?" Out of the mouths of children, Velthar thought. He made his decision. He sent messages declining the return to military service. Instead, he proposed something different. He would use his platform on Earth to speak against the war, to show the galaxy a different path. "I will not fight this war with weapons," he wrote. "I will fight it with words, with truth, with the lessons humans taught me." He began writing his memoir. He called it The Cost of Victory, A General's Awakening. He wrote about every battle, every choice, every life he had considered acceptable loss. He wrote about what the humans had taught him. About Hyunsu and Daejung and Junwoo, about Seonmi organizing chaos into safety, about Taemin showing him pictures of ordinary life on Earth. He wrote about learning to see people instead of numbers, about understanding that strength means protecting, not destroying. An Earth publisher accepted the manuscript. They wanted to release it across the galactic network. "This could change things," the editor said. The Kryn Empire found out. They declared him a traitor. They demanded Earth extradite him. Earth refused. They granted him citizenship and asylum. Death threats started arriving. Velthar was not surprised. He had expected this. What he did not expect was the response from his neighbors. One evening he heard noise outside his apartment. Shouting, heavy footsteps. The door rattled. He prepared himself. If assassins had come, he would face them. The door opened. But it was not assassins. It was Jiwan, Dongwoo, Minho, and a dozen other neighbors. They carried food, blankets, and protest signs. "We heard about the threats," Jiwan said. "You are not facing this alone." "We take turns," Dongwoo added. "Someone is always here. They want to hurt you. They go through us first." Velthar's book published on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday evening, the galactic network was on fire with controversy. The Cost of Victory, A General's Awakening, spread across dozens of worlds in hours. Some called it propaganda. Others called it treason. But many called it truth. Soldiers on multiple worlds began reading it. They recognized their own experiences in Velthar's words. The doubt, the questions. The growing realization that victory at any cost was not victory at all. Protests erupted on Kryn homeworld. Soldiers refused orders. Civilians demanded the war end. The military leadership tried to suppress the book, but that only made it spread faster. Earth media wanted interviews. Galactic politicians wanted statements. Everyone wanted something from Velthar. He gave one interview, just one, to a small Korean news channel. The interviewer was a young woman named Sora. "Why write this book now?" she asked. "Because silence is complicity," Velthar answered. "I spent 40 cycles following orders without question. I cannot be silent anymore, even if speaking cost me everything. Are you afraid? Yes, but fear is not a reason to do nothing. Humans taught me that." The interview went viral, not because Velthar said anything shocking, but because he was honest, vulnerable, real. More aliens started arriving on Earth, veterans who had read his book, who wanted what he had found: peace, purpose, a life beyond war. Velthar's apartment became a meeting place. Every week, new veterans would come. They would talk about their experiences, their regrets, their hopes for something different. Captain Yuna from the Terra Corps found him at the university. She had left military service too. "Your book changed things," she said. "More humans are refusing missions they consider unjust. We are being more selective, fighting only when necessary, protecting always. I learned that from you," Velthar said. "Maybe, but you gave it words. You made it a philosophy. That matters." Together they created something new. They called it the Bridge Initiative, a program to help veterans transition from military to civilian life. Human counselors and alien veterans working together. Dr. Yunji joined as lead therapist. She understood trauma. She understood the difficulty of leaving war behind. "War teaches you to think in certain ways," she explained to new veterans. "Kill or be killed. Us versus them. Strength through violence. Unlearning these patterns takes time, but it is possible. Velthar is proof." The Bridge Initiative started in Seoul. Within 6 months, they had chapters in 5 Earth cities. Within a year, other worlds were asking for guidance to start their own programs. Velthar continued teaching. His classes expanded. He developed a new course called Building Peace Lessons from War. Students from military academies across Earth attended. "War is sometimes necessary," he would tell them. "But it should never be the first choice. Strength is having the power to destroy but choosing to protect instead. That is what makes you truly strong." His relationship with Yoonji deepened. They spent evenings together, walking through Seoul's parks, sharing meals, talking about everything and nothing. "I am learning what love feels like," Velthar told her one evening. "What does it feel like?" she asked. "Like having something worth protecting. Like being vulnerable and trusting someone to care for that vulnerability. Like choosing someone's happiness over your own comfort." Yoonji smiled. "That is a very good definition. I learned from a good teacher." Hanul was growing up. She was 10 now. Still visited him regularly. Still asked impossible questions. "When I grow up, I want to be like you," she said one day. "A general? No. Someone who admits when they are wrong and tries to be better. That is harder than being right all the time." Her wisdom surprised him. But children often saw things adults missed. Then tragedy struck. Hanul's parents died in an accident. A building collapse. Random, senseless. The kind of death that made no sense. Hanul had no other family. She would go to an orphanage. Ji-won could not take her. She was too old. Other neighbors could not afford another child. Velthar found himself at a government office, talking to a social worker about adoption. "You want to adopt a human child?" the worker asked, confused. "Yes. You are an alien. You have only been on Earth for 2 years. You have no experience with children. That is all true. But Hanul has no one else. And Velthar paused. "I love her. She is family. That should matter." The process took months, interviews, evaluations, home visits. Many people thought it was a bad idea. An alien raising a human child. It was unprecedented, but others spoke for him. Ji-won, Professor Minho, his students, his neighbors. They all testified that Velthar had become part of their community, that he understood what family meant. Finally, approval came. Velthar became Hanul's legal guardian. She moved into his apartment. They learned together how to be a family, how to grieve, how to move forward while honoring the past. "Do you miss your planet?" Hanul asked one night. "Sometimes. But this is my home now. You are my home. Even though I'm not your species. Family is not about species. It is about choice. I choose you." Every day, she hugged him. Humans were very good at hugs. Velthar was learning to appreciate them. The war finally ended. The Galactic Council forced a peace treaty. The native populations were protected. Displaced beings were allowed to return home. Reparations were paid. It was not a perfect peace, but it was better than continued war. Many credited Velthar's book. The protests it inspired, the soldiers who refused to fight unjust orders, the shift in how people thought about war. Velthar knew it was not just him. It was all the humans who had shown him a different way. It was the communities that welcomed strangers. It was the children who saw aliens as friends. It was the everyday kindness that made peace possible. Zenkor, his former second-in-command, contacted him, the one who had warned him about getting too close to humans. "You were right," Zenkor said simply. "I am sorry I did not see it sooner. I am leaving military service. May I come to Earth?" "Yes," Velthar said. "The Bridge Initiative will help you." More former soldiers came. The Bridge Initiative expanded. They opened a cultural center in Seoul where aliens and humans learned from each other, where warriors became teachers, counselors, artists, builders, where people who had spent their lives destroying learned how to create. 5 years after arriving on Earth, Velthar stood in that cultural center. It was the anniversary celebration. The center was full of people, humans and aliens, veterans and civilians. Young and old, Hanul, now 15, was giving a speech. She had become an advocate for interspecies families, for understanding across cultures. "My guardian taught me that family is choice," she told the audience. "That love crosses all boundaries. That being strong means protecting those who need protection. These are human values, but they are also universal values. We just needed someone to show us that." She looked at Velthar and smiled. He felt pride, an emotion he had never truly understood before. Jiwon brought out a cake. 5 years since you arrived. 5 years since our neighborhood got more interesting." Professor Minho raised a glass. "To the warrior who learned to build. To the general who found peace." Yunji stood beside Velthar. They had been partners for 3 years now. Not married. Humans had ceremonies for that. But committed. Family. "You found what you were looking for," she said quietly. Velthar looked around. At Hanul laughing with friends. At veterans from dozens of species helping each other. At the community that had welcomed a broken soldier and taught him how to heal. "I was not looking for this," he said. "I was looking for understanding. For redemption. For purpose. And I found something better. I found home." The celebration continued. Music played. People danced. Food was shared. It was loud and chaotic and imperfect. It was beautiful. Velthar thought back to that first battle. To Forward Base Delta. To watching humans refuse to abandon their wounded. He had not understood then. He had seen it as illogical, inefficient. Now he understood. They were not just fighting. They were demonstrating what was worth living for. The ability to gather, to laugh, to hope, to love, to protect those who needed protection. That was worth fighting for. That was worth dying for. That was worth living for. Hanul brought him a piece of cake. "Are you okay? You look sad? Not sad, grateful. For what? For everything. For humans who showed me a better way. For neighbors who became family. For a community that welcomed a stranger. For a daughter who chose me as much as I chose her. That is a lot to be grateful for." Yes. It is. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Velthar sat in the quiet center. Hunji sat beside him. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Leaving your military career. Losing your rank. Everything you gave up." Velthar thought about the question. Really thought about it. "No," he said finally. "I did not give up anything real. I gave up titles, position, power, things that meant nothing. What I gained is everything. Purpose, love, family, understanding, peace. You became something greater than a general. I became just Velthar, and that is enough." They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, Seoul continued its endless rhythm. Millions of people living their lives. Going to work, raising families, creating, building, loving. This was what humans fought to protect. Not territory, not resources, this ordinary life. The extraordinary beauty of ordinary life. 6 months passed. Velthar requested to work directly with human units. His commanders thought it was strange, but they allowed it. The humans were effective, and if the general wanted to study them, so be it. The first major mission came 3 weeks later. A mining colony on the edge of the system was under attack. 300 civilians were trapped inside. Most were Kryn, some were other species. All of them would die if someone did not rescue them. The military council met to discuss options. The colony was deep in enemy territory. Any rescue mission would require significant forces. The cost would be high. We should negotiate for their release, one general suggested. The enemy will not negotiate, another said. They will use the civilians as hostages or kill them. Velthar looked at the tactical display. The colony was surrounded. The approach was narrow. Any ship trying to reach it would be exposed to heavy fire. The rescue is not feasible, the head general declared. We will mourn these losses and continue the campaign. Velthar heard a sound. He turned to see Lieutenant De Jung, one of the human officers attending the meeting. The human was standing very still, his face rigid. You have something to say, Lieutenant? Velthar asked. De Jung looked at the other generals, then at Velthar. Sir, my unit volunteers to extract the civilians. The room went quiet. You have 12 soldiers in your unit, Velthar said. There are 300 civilians in a fortified position surrounded by enemy forces. Yes, sir. You will all die. Maybe, sir. But maybe not. We would like to try. The head general laughed. It was not a kind sound. Human bravery is admirable but foolish. We cannot waste resources on impossible missions. Then don't waste resources, De Jung said. Give us one ship. We will do the rest. If we fail, you lose 12 humans. If we succeed, you save 300 people. Velthar studied the young human. De Jung was calm, not reckless or excited. He had thought about this. He knew the odds. I will authorize 1 transport ship, Velthar said. No additional support. The head general started to protest, but Velthar outranked him. The decision was made. Velthar watched from his command ship as the human transport approached the colony. They did not attack from the front. Instead, they came in low and fast from an angle the enemy was not watching. They landed on the colony's roof and cut through the metal with plasma torches. The humans moved through the colony like shadows. They cleared rooms, found civilians, and guided them to the transport. Enemy soldiers finally noticed and attacked. The humans set up defensive positions while civilians boarded the ship. 4 humans died holding those positions. 4 humans who could have escaped first. But they stayed until every civilian was safe. The transport barely made it out. The hull was damaged. The engines were failing. But 297 civilians were aboard. Only 3 had died before the humans arrived. Velthar attended another human memorial service. He was starting to understand the pattern. Humans died protecting others. They always put themselves last. The second incident happened on a space station. Velthar was attending a diplomatic meeting with human advisor Seonmi. She was a former teacher who had joined the military when her colony was attacked. She did not look like a soldier. She was small even for a human with kind eyes. The meeting was boring. Diplomats talked for hours about trade routes and territory boundaries. Velthar was reviewing reports when the first explosion hit the station. Pirates. They must have been hiding in one of the docked ships. They wanted the wealth stored on the station, and they did not care who got hurt. Chaos erupted. Diplomats from various species ran in different directions. Some tried to reach their ships. Others hid in their rooms. The station's security forces were overwhelmed. Velthar moved toward the docking bay where his ship was waiting. He expected Seonmi to follow him. Instead, she ran toward the station's central plaza where civilians were gathering in panic. Advisor Seonmi, our ship is this way, Velthar called. The civilians need help, she shouted back without stopping. Velthar hesitated. His training told him to reach his ship and escape. That was the logical choice. But something made him follow the human. The plaza was chaos. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species were running and screaming. Children were crying. Parents were searching for family members. The pirates were coming closer, firing weapons randomly. Seonmi stood in the center of the plaza and started shouting. Everyone listen. We need to move together. Follow me to the emergency shelters. No one listened at first. Everyone was too afraid. Seonmi climbed onto a vendor's cart. I know you are scared, but we will survive if we help each other. Parents, hold your children. Everyone else, help those who cannot walk fast. We move together. Her voice was strong, confident. People started to listen. Velthar found himself helping. He picked up a small alien child who was lost and carried him. He guided elderly beings toward the shelter. He did what Seonmi told him to do. They got most civilians into the shelter just before pirates reached the plaza. Seonmi locked the door from the outside. She was still in the plaza. "Advisor, get inside," Velthar ordered. "Someone needs to seal the door from out here," she said calmly. "It is a design flaw. Go, General. Protect them if the pirates get through." She did not wait for his response. She ran to the control panel and started working. The pirates saw her. They aimed their weapons. Velthar raised his own weapon and fired. He killed 3 pirates before they could shoot Seonmi. Station security arrived moments later and drove the pirates back. When it was safe, Velthar found Seonmi sitting against a wall. She was shaking but unhurt. "You could have died," Velthar said. It was becoming a familiar statement with humans. "So could you," Seonmi replied. "You stayed to help. I am a soldier. It is my duty." "I am a teacher," she said. "My duty is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Strength is not about destroying the most things, General. It is about protecting the weakest people. That is what I taught my students. That is what I still believe." Her words stayed with Velthar long after they returned to the fleet. The third incident forced him to choose. The campaign was going well. The enemy was retreating, but they had fortified a city on a contested world. Thousands of enemy soldiers were inside. So were thousands of civilians who could not evacuate in time. Velthar received orders from High Command. Orbital bombardment. Destroy the city. Acceptable losses for strategic gain. It was standard procedure. Velthar had authorized similar actions many times. The needs of the war outweighed the needs of individuals. He called Commander Junwoo to provide targeting data. Human scouts had mapped the city. They knew where the enemy forces were concentrated. Junwoo appeared on the screen. His face was hard. "General, I cannot provide that data. Cannot or will not." "Will not, sir. There are 10,000 civilians in that city. Men, women, children. If you bomb it, you kill them all. High Command has made this decision. We must follow orders." "No, sir. Some orders should not be followed." Junwoo took a breath. "The human forces will not participate in this action. We will break our contract with the Galactic Council if necessary, but we will not help you kill civilians." Velthar felt anger rising. "You are mercenaries. You follow orders." "We are humans first," Junwoo said. "We fight to protect life, not destroy it. If you order this bombing, we are done." The transmission ended. Velthar sat in his command chair. The bombing order was ready. All he had to do was confirm it. His entire career, he had followed orders without question. Obedience was the foundation of military power. But he thought about Hyun-soo carrying wounded soldiers through fire. He thought about Dae-jung and his unit dying to save civilians they did not know. He thought about Seonmi organizing chaos into safety. He thought about her words. "Strength is about protecting the weakest people." He thought about the 10,000 civilians in the city below. Most were enemy species, but some were children. Some were families just trying to survive. For 40 cycles, Velthar had believed that victory justified everything. That military necessity was more important than individual lives. That was how he had been trained. That was what made him a good general. But the humans had shown him something different. They won battles not because they were strong, but because they refused to accept that anyone was acceptable to lose. Velthar opened a communication channel to High Command. "I am delaying the bombing order. I am sending ground forces to evacuate civilians first." The response was immediate and furious. "General, you are disobeying direct orders."
"Yes, sir."
"I am. You will be court-martialed for this." "I understand, sir." He ended the transmission before they could respond further. He sent ground forces into the city. It took 3 days. The operation was dangerous and expensive, but they evacuated 8,000 civilians before engaging the enemy forces. When it was over, Velthar sat in his quarters. He had won the battle. He had saved thousands of lives. And he had destroyed his career. He did not regret it. He looked at the reports on his desk. New orders. A new campaign. This time, they wanted him to invade a world rich in resources. The native population would resist. Estimated casualties 2 million natives. High Command considered this acceptable. Velthar thought about Private Tae-min, a young human who had shown him pictures of Earth, families, children playing. Ordinary people living ordinary lives.